Fellas. That is framed horribly. I mean, this is kind of the downfall of filming from your phone is you cannot see your framing before you start. And especially with this phone, there's 3 cameras on it, so how am I supposed to know which one it is? Fellas, welcome back. Finally had my roommates leave. I have some time to actually talk to the camera here without any interruptions. This is a really cool video topic that I really like to think about and I like to contemplate because thinking in archetypes like we will discussing this topic is a very good way to pin down a lot of solid truths. Contemplating in general any type of topic, which is different from Googling something, reading a book, watching a video, externally getting that information, actually contemplating and thinking it out for yourself. If you think in archetypes, it's a very easy way to make conclusions. In this video, you've read the title, is directly related to that. And this actually is kind of a subsection of a different video I'm going to be making on emotions, which I tried to record earlier from a hotel room, but there was construction and stuff going on. So we'll start here. And this, I love this topic. I really love this topic because there's so much going on today trying to dissolve gender roles and basically flipping that entire identity on its head. And that's perfectly fine. So whenever I'm speaking about the masculine and feminine polarities here, this can be embodied for whoever the fuck you want it to be. But I will say, generally, that men and women have a tendency, by majority, to want to fit into their respective polarity. Men want to fit into the masculine polarity, women would like to fit into the feminine polarity. Okay? And now with deconstruction and media and stuff that's going on right now, everyone's trying out whatever part of the spectrum they feel like trying out, and more power to them. But this is a video more on describing the masculine and feminine polarities using a lot of archetypal examples. And this is in their extremes. And how they interact with each other and how they work together. And so let's start with the feminine, because feminine is ground zero. The chicken or the egg story, the feminine is the fertile womb, fellas. The feminine is the fertile womb which everything that can exist comes from. And it's characterized by a couple of key words like chaos, entropy, the base, the beginning, right? And so if you wanted to categorize it using archetypes from nature, let's say, one of the ways that you could do so is describing the feminine as a hurricane, right? And the beauty and the power of these natural type events come from the raw power, the raw devastating power of these natural events. And so the feminine in its extreme polarity is like a hurricane that's going through, chopping up water in the ocean, making these tsunamis and causing all of this entropy to exist within the place that it's happening. And it happens, obviously you can describe weather patterns and shit like that, but it happens mostly without any logical cause, right? It's chaotic, it changes on a dime, it's constantly in the process of creation of a new event, a new sensory event, a new theme, just like the weather every single day. That hurricane will come, the hurricane will pass, it'll be sunny, bright, and calm. Then it'll be cloudy. Then it'll snow, right? Then it'll be really humid, then it'll be dry, and then it'll be winter, and then it'll be summer. Obviously there's cycles to it, okay? And you can even attribute this to the way that a woman's hormone profile works and operates and exists, right? They go through cycles. They go through that entire period cycle, where they have different hormone profiles right before the actual period, and then during the period, and then after the period. There's an entire different biochemistry that's happening within them, but it occurs monthly, right? Generally speaking, of course. And so that's a really decent way to think about the feminine. All of the archetypal traditional feminine roles and the feminine descriptions of this particular polarity come from the chaos, the emotion, the raw power behind this, right? And so this is ground zero. And again, all of that appreciation and beauty, everything that's celebrated about these events, about this archetype, comes from the fact that it is that thing, that it is chaotic, that it is gorgeous, that it is illogical. It makes it exciting. It makes life zesty. You know what I mean? Imagine if you just had a sunny day every single day with no variation whatsoever. Life would be pretty boring. You know what I mean? And so we celebrate the feminine not only through women, but we also celebrate the feminine as, loving nature. We celebrate the feminine as, investigating the origins of the universe and the womb of the universe and how the galaxies are arranged and things like that. We're celebrating the feminine way more often than we think, but we just typically don't categorize them into that particular structure, right? If we distill it down to a vibe and we try to attribute that polarity, that feminine polarity, to one of those vibes, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, right? And then now, let's talk about the masculine, okay? And the masculine lives within the feminine, just the same way that a dick goes into a vagina, okay? And we're gonna use that same archetype of the hurricane on the coast, let's say, right in front of some choppy water. So the winds are raging, trees are blowing, the storm is moving on, it's illogical, you have no idea what's gonna happen, you don't know if you're gonna get hit with a piece of plywood or something like that. And the masculine within that frame, because they have to exist within one another, the masculine within that frame, you can imagine it as a pillar, a firm standing pillar, like a lighthouse, that in the wake of that chaos remains true to its form. And so all of the beauty and power of the masculine comes from some typical keywords here, like order, containment, stoicism in those types of events. Purpose-driven. The purpose of that lighthouse is to stand and to do its job, even during the hurricane, right? And it will continue to do so if it is well structured and well built. And so we celebrate the masculine. We celebrate the masculine as operating within chaos in an orderly, non-submitting entity. Okay? And so that is where the celebration comes from. That's why when you watch like an action movie, those who complete whatever, like in a war movie or something like Saving Private Ryan, the entire movie is them attempting to reach their goals in the throes of chaos of war, where plans are changing constantly, just like the wind patterns are changing in that hurricane in front of that lighthouse. And they're focused on the purpose and continue on the purpose in trying to keep both their internal environment, their emotions, in check, but also their external environment in check. And this is the beauty of the masculine, but it cannot exist without the feminine. They work interdependently. And you can even, again, reference your own anatomy here to understand this. For a man, or somebody who's trying to embody the masculine within a man's body, your dick is a pillar. Your dick is literally that pillar. It's literally that lighthouse. Okay? And you can extrapolate the themes of the masculine from what you're, like down to what your dick is doing to what you do from a mental aspect, right? And the same is true for the feminine. Chaos through cycles, whereas the masculine is order within that chaos and attempting to arrive at a purpose or singular point without submitting to the chaos itself. This was extremely meta, but those are two really good examples. And again, you can, two really good examples, really good archetypes in order to understand those polarities and how they operate and how they're different from one another, but how they work together, right? Because there's no such thing as chaos if there's nothing for chaos to change or destroy. But there's also nothing for order if there's nothing to be ordered against, so to speak. And when you frame the masculine and feminine like this, you start to unravel a lot of issues, a lot of misunderstandings through whatever, the way that men, like this next video that's going to be coming out, the way that men are handling emotions versus how women handle emotions, and the vibe and the way that where on that masculine and feminine polarity spectrum where emotions lie. Hint, emotions are a little bit more feminine just by nature themselves. Obviously, it exists within both sexes, but emotions themselves are illogical sensations that are triggered by events that don't have any logic, right? That's a little sneak preview there, but there's so many different ways. And if this video ever takes off, leave a comment of how the masculine and feminine are presenting themselves through the dualities that you see everywhere in life. Because it's really fun to think about it that way. And very easy to frame it that way, and way, way easier to contemplate and think if you're breaking it down into these stories. So masculine and feminine, chaos and order, whatever type of words that you'd like to imagine, but done.